When we think about agriculture, we often focus right on the seed itself, the genetics, the potential.
Right, the core component.
Exactly. But there's this other layer, often missed, but it's hugely impactful, seed coatings. Sounds simple, maybe, but it's actually a really innovative field.
It really is, and economically quite significant, too.
Yeah.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into the global market for the actual ingredients that make up these coatings.
Good.
Our main source here is the Global Seed Coating Ingredient Market Report 2025, and it's got some fascinating stuff in it.
All right, so let's get into it. What's the big picture, the headline figure?
Well, the report projects the global market for these ingredients will hit $692.5 million in 2025.
Nearly 4.7 billion.
Yeah. And looking out further, say to 2033, they expect that to climb to $883.94 million.
Oh, okay, so almost doubling in what, 8 years? That's pretty substantial.
It is. It really highlights how important this is becoming in modern agriculture.
So what's pushing that growth? What's the engine?
A big factor, according to the report, is the increased use of pellet coating techniques.
Pellet coating. Okay, explain that a bit.
Think of it like giving each seed, and especially the smaller, irregular ones, a more uniform shape and size. Makes planting much easier, more precise.
Ah, right. For modern machinery, I imagine.
Exactly. Efficiency and accuracy.
So we're looking at a growth rate then, the CAGR, the compound annual growth rate. What's that number?
The forecast is for a pretty solid CAGR of 7.20% between 2025 and 2033.
7.2% per year on average.
That's it. And just for context, they use 2024 as the base year. Look back to 2021 for historical data, and 2025 is the estimate we started with.
Got it. So 7.2% growth year on year, driving towards that over $8 billion figure by 2033.
Precisely. It shows real momentum.
Okay, that gives us a good feel for the overall trajectory. How does this look geographically? Where's the action happening?
Well, in 2025, North America is expected to be the biggest player. We're talking over 40% of the global share.
40%, wow.
Yeah, that translates to about $1,736.23 million, with a CAGR forecast of 6.0%. Europe second, quite strong too, over 30% share.
Okay.
That's $1,360.83 million, and their growth rate is slightly higher, actually, at 6.2%. So those two are the current powerhouses.
Right, the established market's holding strong. But where's the fastest growth? Where's the dynamic shift happening?
That's where it gets really interesting. The report points strongly to the Asia-Pacific region.
Yay, pack. Okay.
They're forecast to have the highest CAGR, a full 10.0%. Their 2025 market size is estimated at $11,126.20 million, so roughly 23% of the total.
10% growth rate, that's significant.
It really is. South America and the Middle East are also showing decent growth, 7.5% and 7.7% CAGR, respectively. Africa is a bit lower at 3.4%. Their current market sizes are smaller, but the growth is there.
So North America and Europe lead now, but APAC is really the one closing the gap fast.
That seems to be the story, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely the region to watch for expansion.
Can we drill down a bit within those regions? Any specific countries really driving these numbers?
Absolutely. Let's take the U.S. Huge market, right? So $1,369.88 million projected for 2025 with a 5.8% CAGR.
And what's behind that in the U.S.?
A lot of it is linked to advancements in seeds themselves, biotech seeds designed for precision farming. They often need specific coatings to, protect them or deliver nutrients effectively.
Makes sense. Protecting the investment in the seed.
Exactly. Then look at Canada, $208.35 million market in 2025, but a higher CAGR at 6.8%.
Higher than the U.S. Why is that?
Seems to be boosted by a couple of things. More interest in bio-based coatings, the sustainability angle, and also the growth in organic farming.
Interesting. And what about APAC with that big 10% growth? Where's that concentrated?
China's a huge factor there. A $473 million market in 2025 and a 9.5% CAGR.
Nearly double-digit growth, too.
Yeah, and a lot of that is apparently supported by government pushes for high-yield crops. Coated seeds play a big role in ensuring those crops perform well.
And India, often a big agricultural story there.
Definitely. India's got an even higher CAGR forecast, 11.9%, reaching $112.62 million in 2025.
Wow, almost 12%.
Driven by, massive food demand and the increasing use of hybrid seeds, which really benefit from coatings. And you also see strong contributions from places like Australia and Southeast Asia, pushing that regional average up.
Okay, that paints a clear picture for APAC. What about South America? You mentioned solid growth there, too. Brazil, presumably.
Exactly. Brazil's market is projected at $76.32 million for 2025, growing at 8.1% CAGR.
Strong growth there as well.
Yeah. largely fueled by expanding maize and soybean production. Seed treatment is becoming pretty standard for those crops to boost yield and fight off problems. Argentina is another key player in the region.
It's fascinating how the specific crops and government policies shape this market in different places. Let's swing back to Europe. You mentioned the UK and Germany.
Yes, the UK is interesting. A $228.62 million market in 2025, 7.0% CAGR. What's notable there is stricter rules on chemical seed treatments.
Ah, regulations driving change.
Right. It's actually pushing farmers towards more eco-friendly options like microbial coatings or biopolymers. Germany, meanwhile, $269.44 million market, 6.4% CAGR, benefits from a lot of R&D investment in seed tech generally.
Okay, got it. So that's the geographical landscape covered pretty well. Now let's shift focus to the actual materials. What are the main ingredients going into these coatings?
The report breaks them down into a few key types. Polymers are a big one,
Okay.
both traditional petrochemical-based polymers and increasingly biopolymers. Then you have biologicals, things like microbes, and also fillers and colorants.
Right. So which category is the biggest right now?
Polymers overall are expected to dominate. They do a lot of the heavy lifting, helping everything stick to the seed, providing protection, sometimes enabling controlled release of, say, fertilizers or pesticides.
That makes sense, kind of the foundation of the coating. But you mentioned biopolymers separately. Is that the faster growing area?
That's exactly right. Biopolymers are pegged as the fastest growing segment.
And why is that? The sustainability push again?
Precisely. The global shift towards sustainable farming, environmental concerns, biodegradability. It's all driving demand for bio-based alternatives to the traditional petrochemical polymers.
Really highlights that green trend in agriculture. Okay, so we have the ingredients. What about the form they come in? Powder, liquid.
Good question. Right now, liquid forms hold the largest market share.
Why liquid?
Generally, they give better, more even coverage on the seed, and their stickiness, their adhesive properties, help make sure the coating stays put during handling and planting.
Okay, better coverage. But I think you mentioned powders are gaining ground too.
Absolutely. The powder segment is expanding quite rapidly.
And the advantage there, cost, ease of use.
Both, really. They tend to be more affordable and simpler to apply, which is a big plus, especially in developing countries where maybe the application equipment isn't as sophisticated, and the powders themselves are getting more advanced too.
Right. So liquids led, but powders are definitely catching up. Now let's talk about the types of coatings themselves that these ingredients create. What are the main ones?
The report highlights three main types: film coating, encrusting, and pellet coating.
Okay, film, encrust, pellet. Which one is most common?
Film coating has the largest market share currently. It's basically applying a thin, uniform layer around the seed.
Just a protective skin, almost.
Pretty much. Good protection helps seeds flow smoothly in planters.
And the fastest growing. Does that tie back to what you said earlier about uniformity?
Exactly. Pellet coating is the fastest growing type. That's the one where you build up layers on the seed to make it rounder, heavier, more uniform in size and shape.
Right, the one that helps with precision planting.
Yes, especially for those really small seeds or valuable ones where every single seed counts and placement needs to be perfect.
Okay, this is starting to form a really clear picture. So the market's booming. Pelleting is a key technique driving growth. Biopolymers are the hot ingredient category. Liquid forms are dominant, but powder is rising fast. Film coating is common, but pelleting is where the fastest growth is. Got it. Let's talk about the why. What are the big market drivers pushing all this forward?
Well, the report really emphasizes a few key things. First and foremost, just the basic demand for better quality seeds.
Better quality meaning?
Higher yields, better germination rates, more resistance to diseases, pests. Farmers always want seeds that perform better, and coatings help deliver that.
Fundamentally, yeah. Better seeds, better harvest. What else?
Technology advancements are huge.
Yeah.
Seed treatment tech is moving fast. We're seeing things like nanotechnology being used, better bio-based formulas, improved polymer coatings, even so-called smart coatings.
Smart coatings, what does that mean?
It sounds futuristic, right? But the idea is coatings that might respond to, say, soil moisture or temperature, releasing beneficial stuff only when the conditions are right.
Wow, okay. That is advanced.
It's a really exciting area. And then just the general expansion of the whole agrochemical industry provides a rising tide for seed coatings, too, as they're often part of a bigger treatment package.
So, need for better seeds, constant innovation, those are the big pushes. Are there things holding the market back? Any restraints?
Yes, there are definitely challenges. One big one mentioned is cost. Some of these advanced coating technologies aren't cheap.
Right. So accessibility might be an issue.
Exactly. It can be a barrier, particularly for smaller farmers or farmers in developing regions where the capital investment is harder to justify or manage.
That's a critical point for broad adoption. Any other headwinds?
The report also notes fluctuations in raw material prices. The cost of the polymers, the fillers, whatever goes in. If those prices swing wildly, it can impact the final cost and potentially slow things down.
Okay, so cost of tech and unstable raw material prices are the main drags. Looking ahead again, what about major trends shaping the industry going forward?
Well, we've touched on it a lot, but the demand for bio-based coatings is huge. It's driven by environmental concerns, regulations.
Hmm.
It's a clear shift.
Right. Any specific examples of that in action?
Yeah, the report mentions a collaboration from early 2022 between Zampla and Croda Incotec. They were working specifically on biodegradable seed coverings. That's a tangible sign of where things are headed.
Good example. What else is trending?
Another big one is integrating biologicals directly into the coating. Things like beneficial bacteria, uh, mycorrhiza fungi, biostimulants.
So using the coating to deliver microbes that help the plant.
Exactly. To boost soil health, maybe reduce the need for synthetic fertilizers or pesticides later on. It's all part of that move towards more, let's say, ecologically integrated farming.
Very interesting. Moving towards a healthier system overall. Now, with all this growth and innovation, it must be a competitive space. Who are the main players?
Oh, definitely competitive. The report mentions key companies are really focused on R&D, expanding their product lines, making strategic alliances. You see the big agricultural names, Bayer AG, UPL, United Phosphorus Ltd, DuPont, DSM, BASF SE, FMC Corporation, Sumitomo Chemical.
Yeah, those are major players in agriculture. Any recent moves that show how this competition is playing out?
There have been a few notable things, like late 2021, BASF launched a new coating polymer, Fluorite Pro 2805, focused on better application and environmental safety.
Oh,
Croda opened a new facility around mid-2021 just for validating crop products, showing investment in that pipeline. And maybe most significantly, Solvay acquired Bayer's global seed coatings business back in July 2021.
wow, an acquisition like that really shakes things up.
For sure, shows active maneuvering and investment in this specific area by the big guys.
Okay, we have covered a lot of ground here. Market size, the growth, where it's happening, the ingredients, the forms, the coating types, what's driving it, what's holding it back, the trends, the companies. Phew. So, boiling it all down, what's the main takeaway from this deep dive?
I think the core message is that seed coating ingredients represent a really significant and still growing part of the whole agricultural picture. It's fundamentally driven by the need for better performing seeds, but also increasingly shaped by the global push for sustainability.
Right.
And we're seeing, clear regional differences in growth and focus, plus technology, especially around things like biopolymers and pelleting, is constantly evolving and pushing the market forward.
So it's really clear that what we put on the seed is becoming almost as critical as the genetics inside the seed. Which leads me to a final thought, maybe for you, the listener, to chew on.
Okay.
Given this dual pressure, the need for more sustainable farming and the absolute necessity of ensuring food security for everyone, how might these trends in seed coatings continue to reshape agriculture over, say, the next decade? And what totally new innovations, maybe things we haven't even conceived of yet, could emerge in this vital space? It really feels like there's a lot more potential still untapped.
The great question to end on. It really captures how dynamic this field is. You've got material science, biology, agronomy, all converging right there on the surface of a tiny seed.
Yeah.
The potential for future breakthroughs is, I think, immense.
Absolutely. Definitely a space worth keeping an eye on as we tackle those big challenges of feeding the world sustainably. Thanks for walking us through all that detail today.
My pleasure. It's a fascinating report to unpack.